Mathew, Viral, Gautam, Aditya, Uma, Sai, Charan and Bala, I would like to warmly welcome you all on Filme Shilmy and congratulations for making your short films being screened as part of the hashtag BDNP Jump initiative.
Thank you. Thank you, Anuj. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, just for the viewers at home, the initiative aims to raise the bar in independent and zero-budget filmmaking and nurture indie filmmaking talent in Singapore, which is wonderful. And I think for many of you as well, if I'm not wrong, I think there has been a few directorial debuts as well. So a huge congratulations again to you all for doing that. Now, I'm a big fan of short films because I think it's the hardest form of storytelling that there is in cinema. And as we know, the pandemic has changed everything, the way we create and consume content. So Mathew, coming on to you first. You know, your experimental short film, Vesta, redefined the conventions of filmmaking as you had zero script, screenplay and actors as well in that as well. You had zero screenplay in that, and you just had actors coming together enacting one concept. So what were the greatest challenges for you in creating this very, very unique piece of cinema?
Thanks, Anuj, for getting us all together. So coming to your question, basically, I recollect one day Shilpa calling me, like around, it was this time only, and she's telling like, I have this idea. There is no script. And I'm like floored. I mean, like Shilpa is known only for the script, like at the script level, she is so strong. And like, she's coming to me and saying there's no script, absolutely nothing. And what we have is people will shoot their own videos, their own things. And that itself got me kind of interested in the whole concept. So the most important part is like, it was divided into two parts. So the initial shout that was there in the public domain, like everyone was invited, anyone, like, so whom you are seeing in Vesta, like they stood by like for that period, like of all the training, like in regards to assignments and all that. So the like Shilpa was training them. My part came in the second half when everyone was there, the videos were shot. So then I came on board, and my biggest challenge, like for an editor, like I see things from an editing side more, like I love that technical department. And for an editor, this is like a dream come true project, like where you don't have anything, you have to create, and you have this individual videos also of like this people, which is like 10 minutes long. Some are like 6 minutes, some are like 14 minutes. How to make sure there is justice done to each and every person, how to come up with a story. And most importantly, like when you're seeing 16 characters, you should be able to go back and think like, what was the story of that person when they make a reappearance? So in all those aspects, it was very nicely planned, and with Shilpa like heading like as a creative person, it was much easier. Like and it was one of the most fundamental film where you can say more like it's the best zero budget film. So we generally, when we go to film festivals and all, there are like people saying there is always an budget attached, no matter how much zero you say. But this is like the best. Like, so you put your artist into a very challenging position and they are coming back. So we have not done anything. We kept it raw as it is. So it's a film with just 3 technical person. So Shilpa, myself, and Vineet, who did the music and the final mix. So just 3, So just 3 people, and the rest are the cast, and you have a story like. And it is a film that was done when there is no pandemic, and it was supposed to be an experimental film. So people were like, why are they actually doing it? But by the time when we released it, people were more relatable to the concept, like because they already were in a what you call this pandemic lockdown situation. So that helped. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds incredible. And I think it's just so wonderful to see you explore this type of filmmaking. I think Uma as well, you know, we were talking about challenges in filmmaking as well, which Mathew had rightfully encountered too. Creating narratives, Uma, for children is never easy. You know, I think it requires a certain balance in making it mature but yet digestible for the young viewers as well, or telling that story as well. So how did you strike that equilibrium for your short film Mini?
So when I started directing it, I didn't really think about all of this. I think the way I approached it is just to keep it simple, because I looked at it as a children's film. And a children's film, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be simple, it's supposed to be exciting, and it should just keep the person entertained throughout. So that is how I approached it. I don't think I thought too much into it. And then I just kind of went with what works for me, I guess. Like when I read the script, a certain idea of how the story goes popped into my head, and I tried to follow it. And I had a wonderful team to support me. So it came out to what it is.
Well, that's wonderful. So what did you discover the most about, after making the film then, after, exploring this narrative about children as well?
Children are quite complicated because they have a lot of emotions, but they express them quite simply. Okay. So if you see the character of Minnie, she has a lot of ideas, she has a lot of dreams that she wants to achieve. And as a child, your dreams, they keep changing because you find, you're curious, you find new things every day that excite you. But then when it comes to certain serious aspects, because there's something that's explored in the film, she handles it quite simply. She just goes ahead, this is what happens. And she just handles the situation in a very simple manner, which I think once you become an adult, it starts getting a bit complicated. So yeah, I think that's what I've discovered. Kids they have complicated thoughts, but they're quite simple in the way they explain them.
Oh, very well said. That is so true. And I think we all miss that aspect of innocence that we all encountered during our childhood as well. But I think be it adulthood or childhood, I think the most universal theme, I think, that we all share in common is the theme of friendship, which is a part of our daily lives. It's always the connection one has with each other that makes it so worthwhile. And I think, Charan, in making the movie Dost, which personal aspects, if at all, did you reflect on in presenting the characters and making their relationship as organic as possible?
Thanks for having us here. Sorry. So yeah, to answer that question, it really wasn't that difficult on two accounts. One is that we've more or less all of us have had those kind of evenings where a bunch of guys get together, have a few drinks, and talk about anything and everything under the sun that doesn't make sense, but to them, right? So that was many such evenings have been had with many of friends. So it wasn't difficult to create that atmosphere. The second aspect was that I was blessed with some very good actors, three of whom are here as directors of their own films, and one missing, that's Shivanu Shukla, that's Shilpa's husband. Yeah. And the good thing is that all four of them have a great natural chemistry. I mean, they are friends in Singapore. So I didn't really have to work much on creating that chemistry. In fact, I was worried that because we did most of our rehearsals, 95% of it was done on Zoom calls like these, where everybody was, giving out their lines. And I was worried that once they come together in a room, because we've been rehearsing so much on Zoom calls, we may not get that natural organic chemistry that you have with friends. But I was completely wrong. Put these four guys in a room with a bottle of whiskey in front of them, and everything just went fantastic thereafter. So yeah, I mean, that's how we did it. I think most of the films that I have watched and I've got influenced with, when things are organic, you feel it as a viewer. So if people, and some people have given me that feedback that on watching those, they felt that these four guys were for real. And that is a huge compliment, that it was believable. It didn't feel like they were acting. And even when I was shooting it, there were moments when these guys were so good that it actually felt like real. So I'm glad that the camera could capture it and the audience could feel it.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that as well. And I think that's exactly what counts at the end of the day, you know? And I think speaking more of human relationships, I think for a while now, the father role in Indian cinema has been presented in quite an antagonistic way, like stemming back to the Baojis back in the 1990s, you know? I think it's always been like that patriarchal, very headstrong, very like dominating figure. But I thought your film Dad actually in a way challenges this conventional narrative of father-daughter relationship. So in what way was that your approach from the onset to do that?
Yeah, thanks, Noj. Thanks for having me here. Um, it, when I read the script, I think the first thought that came to my mind was how can we make this as relatable as possible, in a way that doesn't conform to the stereotypes, exactly as you mentioned, which is these you have whatever I've seen growing up, it was always the dad was bucketed into a particular stereotype, and then the kids were bucketed into a particular stereotype. But really speaking, I mean, and this is just from my own personal experience, of not just my own relationship with my father, but just seeing how a lot of my friends have, how their relationship with their father has evolved. What I've noticed is that it's always a constant evolution, and that it's not always, a one-way direction of the father trying to exert control over the kid or vice versa. It's just a constant push and pull, and I think that's what makes the dynamic beautiful. And that was very much the idea that I had when I read the script as well, which is I just wanted to bring across this natural struggle, yet at the same time, a beautiful struggle, in what actually makes a father and child relationship so special.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's exactly why I love the film as well, because it does, challenge that conventional and stereotypical image that has been created. And I think that's exactly what cinema should do. It should present realism and relatability. Um, Now, I think also when we talk about cinema and when we talk about emotions and you know how powerful a storytelling is as well. I think one of the most important themes in cinema is, of course, nostalgia. And Viral, I know your film is exactly revolving around the theme of nostalgia. So, what was the main source of your inspiration for this?
Um, I think so. First of all, it's the script, and I'm thankful that Shilpa actually trusted me with the script because it was a fairly delicate topic, and when I read it, I'm sure if you would have seen the screener or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
there is not a lot of content within that, right? So much of the film sits in the subtext of it, reading between the lines, as I would say. And that's what attracted me, saying that I can actually bring my perspective into this very simple script, and a lot of thinking. And of course, as a first-time director, I had the palpitations. Like I don't know if I can do justice to the script, whether I have it in me to tell the story right or whatnot. What I relied on is essentially just to see that, okay, what is the true nature of these characters? And we did a lot of character work. So that gave me a lot of confidence, and to build the backstories. And there is a part of real life elements within this, right? So I won't go into the details of it, but some of the incidents in the film have actually happened. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know actually whether I'm at liberty to disclose this or not, but I think it was Shilpa's relative who had experienced some version of this, right? So that helped me sort of put it in perspective or whatnot. But more importantly, I think when we think about nostalgia and all of these things, the general portrayal is from a young lens, right? What we see in the movies or whatnot, and we're here to bring the perspective of somebody who is long lost, long forgotten. That was very interesting. So I basically tried to just be true to the script and also rely heavily on the character work that we did, developing backstories, so that the characters as well as the actors both have that synergy, saying that we know where all of this is coming from. Because it's a short 8-minute film, that there's not a lot you can say and do within that.
Yeah.
So the idea is, how much of that believable thing can you portray on screen?
Yeah, and this is exactly why I say short filmmaking is perhaps the toughest, storytelling form, because you're very, very challenged with time, but yet you have to show a very clear narrative arc within that set time. And I think it's remarkable with the way you've all managed to do that. In fact, I think, as you mentioned, it is a very sensitive subject, and it does require a certain sensitive approach as well. And I think when it comes to the depiction of marriage and dysfunctional relationships, I also feel again that requires a certain sense of balance in the way a filmmaker or a director handles that. And in fact, it also should be compelling too in many ways. So Bala, how did you ensure this balance for your film Navrasa?
Yeah, I mean, the title kind of gives it away. Navrasa, the moment you say Navrasa, people are already expecting a lot of emotions in that movie. But so that was the toughest part, to meet what people need, but at the same time to remain subtle and to try and come out with all the emotions that we can in a very subtle way. So we didn't want it to be like a verbal reading of all the emotions that can possibly be displayed. Like I said, the script was pretty good. That is definitely the base part of it. The story was good. And so we thought about different ways of treating it and how human emotions can be interpreted. So the way we have interpreted these navaras are different from the usual definition of these rasas that you would find. So hopefully it will turn entertaining, I guess. And that's the hope.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like I said, emotions are the most important part of a film, because that's exactly what, a movie does ride on. It rides on those emotions. And I think it's wonderful to sort of see a subject like that as well explored very, very wonderfully in Navrasa. Aditya, your short film, Neelambari, is, I believe, the only one featured in Malayalam as part of the #BDNP Jump series as well, right? If I'm not wrong.
Right.
Wow.
And that's the scary part.
Right. Why do you say it's scary? Why is it scary?
Because I don't speak the language, though I watch a lot of that cinema. So, sorry, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because we recently saw a film like The Disciple, in which music played a very pivotal backdrop for the story, and it was a very almost like an instrumental character, pun pretty much intended there, in the film as well. So what was your reference point or conception for Neelambari as well?
Actually, a lot of Malayalam cinema and Tamil cinema, growing up. So, typically what we would call offbeat cinema has always been, there in Bengali, Malayalam cinema, quite a lot, especially in the 80s and 90s is where all these guys came in. So to me, I think my reference point was actually a couple of South Indian movies. If I could name, Mon Ragam by Mani Ratnam. It's an old classic. And that's where silences, pauses, distances, and conversations and, all that sort of were definitely some references that played back. And obviously music was very important. So we made sure that, there's no singing in the movie, right? It's 15 minutes, there's no playback. While it's a story about a singer and a music teacher. So we just made sure that through the background music, thanks to Vineet, who's, I have to say this, is barely 23 or 24-year-old, along with Jenny, who's on call. They did the post-production, and Vineet's music has been fantastic. And we stuck to the Neelambari Rag. So I made sure that music had to be contemporary in terms of, I didn't want to be too heavy and classical, and yet stick to it. So, thank you for that.
It just goes to show that cinema is a universal language, and other language barriers, as they say, is very much omitted when it does come to good storytelling and good cinema. So I think, Aditya, it's wonderful to hear your experiences of making Neelambari as well. But I think, Gautam, on a final note, your film Butterflies offers what we all pretty much require in these testing times, and that is hope and overcoming grief as well. So I think, on a more personal note, and of course you can give this in reference to making Butterflies too, what gives you the strength to overcome grief? And how helpful was that for you during the whole filmmaking process of Butterflies?
Actually, I've been pretty lucky so far. I've I haven't experienced grief as yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really can't answer how do I, as a person, deal with grief? How do I come out of grief? But I've seen people around me, right, who in grieving. So it's a very complex thing. How do you come out of grief, right? And there is no fit for all. It's a very, very individual path, and that's one journey that everybody has to, undertake on their own, right? Well, let me actually go back a bit. I really can't say that I've never experienced grief. I have experienced grief in a sort of remote way. At the age of 25, one of my best friends passed away. He died at the age of 25.
So sorry.
But the way I dealt with grief is, I don't remember actually. That's why I say, I really can't define how does one get out of grief, right? And that's actually the movie is about, right? The movie is not about giving a formula about dealing with grief or getting hope out of something. The movie is about the fact that any small thing, how much ever trivial it is, okay, with the right perspective to it, if presented at the right point in time, will actually help you grieve. Will actually help you get out of that sorrow and move on with life. Sorry, it's a very convoluted and confusing answer maybe, but as I said, there is really there's no right answer to this. How do I get out of grief? And I think that's the movie. That is what the movie is also saying.
Okay, well let me expand on that then, because I know it's a very tough area to explore. But how important is it to deliver the message of hope and overcoming hardships through cinema, especially given the testing times?
No, yes, that is very, very important. And what we tried to do in the film, the messaging that's already there in the story, is that it's okay to grieve. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to take time. Okay? Just be open to the idea that your life can go on. Maybe not exactly the way it was before the incidents, before the bad thing happened to you, but you can still go on. You can take support of smallest of the things that are around you and move on. And that is what we try to show in the film through visuals. We have tried to show the time that goes on, the loneliness, the feeling of anger, deceit, right? The depression. We try to show that through visuals. And in these times, right? Actually, we are all lucky. The person who's grieving, correct? The burden of grief is, in my opinion, is far bigger than what any of us is facing right now because of the COVID times or situation, right? And whether COVID or non-COVID, okay, I don't think there is anything extra happening in this world. Grieving is been the same.
Yeah.
Right? That's always been the toughest part to the people who grieve, and I don't think there is anything different in these times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think grieving is a process, but as you said, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So I think taking that sort of notion forward, and I think on a final note, just to get closing statements from all of you here, because you guys are just so remarkably talented, and it's just wonderful to see you all make and step into the shoes of directors as well and tell such compelling stories. I think having an initiative like the hashtag BDNP Jump series, how important is it to have this, especially for indie talent, for independent cinema as well? So Mathew, would you like to go first?
So this initiative definitely, like the screen itself is filled with the outcome of the initiative. Like most of them were artists. Now they have explored into the technical side of it. So I think this initiative really helps for people to explore. And with experts backing such an initiative, it's not like just technically like a debut. I mean, like you have people really backing you at every stages. So it really helps. I think it's a massive initiative that BDNP is doing to bring such talents in this domain.
Yeah, I think in addition to bringing everybody on the, giving everybody opportunity, bringing everybody together, it, I think, creates a great ecosystem where thought feeds thought. Mm-hmm. We all learn from each other. And that's the only way I think we all will continue to make anything good or anything better in anybody's life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
So up until 3 years ago, I was a cinema viewer, but never really knew about the ins and outs of it. And since joining the team and since being part of this, I've been lucky enough to learn a lot of aspects of it, not just directing. I also worked as on-location sound for most of the film, and that was a big learning ground as well. And she's not here, but Ramya Chichi, she was the cinematographer. Mm-hmm. She is a wildlife photographer, and this was the first time she was doing cinematography. And it was fun because I worked with her and we were able to learn all sides of the art, and mm-hmm. It was interesting. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity, and obviously this is a very wonderful team to work with. So it's great.
Absolutely. Sai?
Anuj, I think honestly the most difficult thing in whatever it is that you do is to go from 0 to 1. And what this initiative has done, at least for me, I'm sure for many others as well, but especially for me, what it's done is it's made the journey from 0 to 1 immensely simple. I don't think without this initiative, I don't even know if and when I would have ever had the courage to think that I could even direct something. And I think the beauty of this initiative, exactly as everyone else has been saying, is that because we're all in this together, we're all doing these new things that we don't really have that much experience in. We're all here to learn from each other, push our boundaries, all while having the safety net of people who've actually done this before. So honestly, I think this has just made that process of 0 to 1 so much easier that I'm hoping for a lot of us, it'll take us from the 1 to 100 as well, now that we've gone from the 0 to 1. So yeah, massive thanks to this entire initiative, to every single person on this team, because I've learned a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Sai and everybody else, I wish I could plagiarize all that and just, repeat it all, because everything everybody has said so far is exactly how I feel and exactly how I'm sure many of us feel. So yeah, no, it's a great initiative. I, like Sai and many over here, might have never ever thought that I would ever make a film as a director in my wildest imaginations or dreams. So when Shilpa called me with the script and nominated me or selected me as one of the 8-9 people here who would direct, it was unbelievable. So and it was not just giving the script and saying go and make it, right? It was hand-holding throughout the way, which, as Sai so wonderfully put, the 0 to 1, which is always the most difficult part of the journey, was made very simple. And there was Jenif, there was Vineet. I mean, if you were to be a fly on the wall over the calls that I've had with Jenif, I don't know, he has a patience of a saint to be dealing with a complete amateur like me. The terminology these guys use, I have no clue of what I was doing, and the patience with which they spoke to me, or put up with me is the better word. So no, thanks really to BDNP. This day wouldn't have been possible if not for them.
Absolutely. Yes, very, very well said. We would not be having this conversation, actually, for starters, had it not been for them as well. So what about you, Bala?
And it's pretty much the same. I echo most of the sentiments that all of us expressed here. For me, I think it is slightly different. I always wanted to direct a movie, and I've been working with Shilpa, Jenny, and all others for a long time. So the kind of standards that they have set, or the kind of expectation that you have, when you make a movie, it's already very high. So when I was thinking about making a movie, the minimum expectations I was setting for myself was already too high, and I was just putting things away until this initiative came, and I could see a group of friends trying to do this together. Now that kind of gives you the confidence to go jump over and start doing things. So yes, without this, I don't think I would have done any time in this time frame, probably many, many years after. So yes, thanks BDP. The initiative was definitely helpful.
Three things to say. Since everyone has said everything, I'll just say three things to say. One, I think it's, firstly, I think the kind of environment provided, as Sai mentioned, 0 to 1, I'll say like we were pushed in to say that go ahead and try, guys. We're there to stand by you, and every one of them, right from the technical team, be it Ramya and Uma, be it sound and camera, be it music, post-production, Shilpa, of course, like the rock solid pillar. There was never a doubt in terms of the environment provided, be it across even the cast and crew. That's one. Two, I think, everyone, like most of us, as Charan said, I never dreamt of directing a cinema, that too in Malayalam and of any kind. I think that sort of comfort coming in is a platform that provides like this. Three, I think it's also, I would want to mention, since you mentioned the disciple, disciple is a linear Guru Shishya story where whatever the Guru says, the Shishya follows. And whereas here in this entire process of BDMP, we were allowed to challenge everything, including the script of Nilambari is a challenge to the Guru in terms of the conversations that I had. So that, I think, was a great outcome in the entire BDMP process, where I still remember going for my first and second edit, and Shilpa asked me questions for almost 45 minutes saying, you tell me, why did you do this? And I was like, are you correcting my edit, or do you want me, like, she was more interested in knowing why did I have a viewpoint. So I think, getting that sort of access, and if I could use the word, since you mentioned zero budget, free tutorial from an award-winning filmmaker and a platform, I think people like us would just snatch it with both our hands. So that sort of both platform, technical and artistic cast and crew has been a blessing. So I'll just say thank you for that.
Absolutely, yes. That is so beautifully put, Aditya. And finally, last but not the least, Viral. No pressure, by the way.
No worries. So I will not delve into what everyone so beautifully before me has put. But what I will perhaps like to put everyone's attention to is what is the genesis of BDNP and what does it mean, right? Mm-hmm. So BDNP, Black Dabba, it's a collaboration between Black Dabba Productions and the Navya project. Black Dabba Productions is what Shilpa and Shivanu have started. And the idea is to show people that you really don't need the multi-million-dollar budgets and the big cameras and the massive technical crew to create something new. Novices can also create beautiful films. So that's one thing. Black Dabba, it's a black box. You don't need anything but your creativity, and everything else will fall into place. And the Navya project, the whole idea of that, the Navya project, which is Mansi's initiative, and I kind of help her with that, is about finding new audiences. Many times what happens is that creativity gets boxed into echo chambers, right? You share it with 5 of your friends, they share it with 5 of their friends. It kind of just circulates within a small group of people. And that tends to stifle a lot of innovation and a lot of voices. And people just get bored plainly with it, right? And every artist just feeds off finding new audiences and making something meaningful for them. So the initiative is a coming together of these two prospects, saying that anyone can make films without a lot of money if you just believe in yourself and if you can be a good storyteller. And the Navya project is that you can find new audiences, get your work out there, get more people to watch it. And jump is literally jump onto this opportunity, right? Take the plunge of belief, if you will. So don't think too much about it. So my journey personally is also that, I had a lot of fear jumping in. I dragged my feet along, thinking that I didn't have it in me to direct a film, let alone, make a product that I'm proud of or I want others to see. All of those things, right? All of these emotions are there. But, Shilpa, Shivanu, Jenny over here, Mathew. So Mathew, we lovingly call him Jenny. Jenny Bhai, So if people are getting confused, so Mathew Joseph is Jenny Bhai. Mansi, all of us, basically everyone was hand-holding, saying that don't worry, you do this. Whatever you need in terms of support is provided. If I was feeling stuck, Shilpa would come in and say, okay, well, what are you stuck with? I was like, okay, I have a list of equipment that I need. I need, lapel mics, and I need booms over here, and I need 3 cameras and whatnot. She was like, what the hell for? I was like, I can shoot this on 1 camera. And all of our films basically are shot in 1 camera and 1 boom mic, right? Most of them. So the idea is that the technical expertise were provided if you wanted to reach out, right? And nowhere was it stifling, like Aditya said. We were given a free hand. We were asked questions, justify. So it's not like you want to do this for the sake of the technicality, or does it help the story? So this is an important nuance where you need I suppose an experienced filmmaker like Shilpa to come in and say that why would you need this? Why would you need a different camera? Why do you need to take this shot? So if it's not serving the story, it should not be in there. So some of these things, a first-time director does not come in, knowing about these things, because all we have seen is that, if you're shooting even the smallest of commercials, just 30 seconds long, there are 3 trucks of equipment parked outside, right? That's the typical aspect of it. So the whole project, and the good thing about this initiative is we want to encourage anyone and everyone to come in, make films without any hesitations. And, we have a technical team to support you. And hopefully we have delivered on that promise.
Yes, well, thank you so much, for explaining that. And I think for all the viewers at home as well, I think it's wonderful to see, a great initiative as well, like the hashtag BDNP jump. It's wonderful that Black Dabba Productions and the Navya project have united for this. And given the fact that you've all had amazing experiences working in the performing arts field, I think seeing your journey as filmmakers now, I think it's only going to head for an upward trajectory, and I cannot wait to see more work emerging from you all. So on that note, once again, a huge thank you, Mathew, Gautam, Uma, Sai, Charan, Bala, Aditya and Viral, for joining me on Filme Shilmy. It's always wonderful to speak with you all, and I'm really privileged that I could do this with you all. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anuj. And well done on the football.
Yes, thank you. I don't know if it's coming home, but it's definitely going for the quarters. So that's great. But on that note, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.